That night, I understood that a wedding could destroy two families. My name is Emily Carter. I am 55 years old. I am a mother of 3 children, but this story is about Michael, my eldest son. His wedding day should have been the happiest of his life. It was not. I still remember the scent of fresh lilies in the church, the white lights hanging from the ceiling, the guests smiling. Michael waited at the altar in that navy blue suit he liked so much. He was nervous but happy. I was happy too, until the moment for the toast arrived. The bride's father, Mr. Robert Harrison, took the microphone. He was a heavy-set man with a deep voice, the owner of a construction company. Everyone knew him. Everyone respected him, or so they thought. He raised his glass of champagne and said, "I want a toast to my daughter, Sarah. She has always been stubborn, ever since she was a little girl, and today she insisted on marrying this boy." There was nervous laughter. Then he added, looking straight at Michael, "This kid is an idiot, but my daughter insisted on marrying him." The hall erupted in laughter, but I saw my son's face. He turned pale. His hands trembled. He looked down. I felt my legs stop supporting me. No one else seemed to notice. Everyone was laughing. Everyone was toasting, as if humiliating a man at his own wedding was funny. I squeezed my napkin between my hands. I took a deep breath, and in that moment, I knew something. That man was not going to get away with it. Because I knew things he thought no one knew. And that night I was going to reveal it all. But before I tell you what I did, let me tell you how I got there. Because this story did not start at that wedding. It started months earlier, when something inside me said, "Emily, investigate that man." And I did. What I discovered destroyed his entire family. When Michael told me he had met a girl, I was happy. It was January. It was cold outside. We were in the kitchen of my house, drinking hot coffee with cinnamon like every afternoon. "Mom, her name is Sarah," he told me with that shy smile he had always had since he was a child. "She is different, smart. She makes me laugh." I observed him. Michael was 28 years old. He worked as a civil engineer at a small but honest firm. He was my eldest son, the most serious one, the most responsible one. He had never spoken to me like that about any girl. "And what does she do?" I asked, stirring my coffee. "She studies architecture. She's about to finish her degree. Her dad owns a big construction company, Harrison and Associates." That was when something inside me shifted. Harrison. That last name sounded familiar, but I did not know from where. "Have you gotten to know her well?" I asked him. "Yes, Mom. We have been dating for 3 months. I want you to meet her. Can I bring her to dinner on Sunday?" I accepted, of course, because a mother always wants to see her children happy, and Michael seemed happy. That Sunday, Sarah arrived. She was pretty, long dark hair, big eyes. She dressed simply but with class. She greeted me with respect. She hugged me. She said, "Mrs. Carter," with a soft voice. "Thank you so much for having me in your home." I prepared my special pot roast, my specialty. Michael was nervous, but Sarah helped set the table. We talked. She spoke to me about her career, about her dreams. She wanted to design sustainable houses, homes for families. I liked her. But when she mentioned her father, something changed in her voice. "My dad is demanding," she said, moving the food around on her plate. "He has always wanted me to be perfect, to have the best grades, to marry someone of his level." "And what does he think of Michael?" I asked, pouring her more water. Sarah looked down. "I have not told him we are dating yet." Michael looked at her in surprise. "Sarah, it is just that." She sighed. "My dad is complicated. He always says men have to prove their worth. That he does not trust anyone who does not come from a wealthy family." I felt a knot in my stomach. "Michael comes from an honest family," I said firmly. "Hard-working, with values. That is worth more than any money." Sarah looked at me with moist eyes. "I know, Mrs. Carter. That is why I love him." Michael took her hand. I smiled, but inside, something unsettled me. That man, Robert Harrison, sounded like someone difficult, someone who judged people by their bank account, and I knew that type of man. I had seen them all my life. They always hide something. Months passed. Michael and Sarah officially became a couple. He was in love, radiant. He would come home singing. He talked to me about her all the time. "Mom, Sarah understands me. She respects me. She does not care that I do not have a brand new car or that I live in a rented apartment. She says what matters is building together." I nodded, but I kept thinking about that father. One day Michael arrived looking more serious. "Mom, I have to tell you something." We sat in the living room. It was raining outside. The sound of water against the window calmed me. "I am going to propose to Sarah." I felt a mixture of joy and fear. "Have you met her family?" "Yes, I went to dinner at their house 2 weeks ago." "And how did it go?" Michael hesitated. "The dad, Mr. Harrison, is weird, Mom. He asked me a lot of questions about my job, my salary, my plans. He asked me how much I made a month, how much I had saved, if I owned property. And what did you tell him?" "The truth, that I earn a fair wage, that I am saving, that I do not own a house yet, but I work hard." "And what did he say?" Michael clenched his fists. He said, "Well, son, I hope you know my daughter is accustomed to a certain standard of living. Not just anyone can support her." I felt rage, but I held back. "And what did Sarah say?" "She got angry with him. She told him I was a good man, that was the only thing that mattered. Mr. Harrison just laughed and said, 'We shall see.'" That night I could not sleep. Something about that man bothered me deeply. It was not just his arrogance, it was something else. Something I could not see yet, but I was going to discover it. Michael proposed to Sarah in April. She said yes. They cried together. He called me on the phone, excited. "Mom," she said, "yes, we are getting married." I was happy. Really? But that same night, alone in my room, I looked out the window and thought, that man is going to try to ruin this. I know it. And I was right. 2 weeks later, Sarah came to see me. She was crying. "Mrs. Carter, my dad says he does not want me to marry Michael." I sat down with her. I poured her chamomile tea. I held her hands. "Why?" "He says Michael has no future, that he is a mediocre man, that he is going to make me unhappy, that I am going to regret it." "And what do you think?" I love Michael, but my dad is very stubborn, and my mom always does what he says. I am afraid that they will separate us." I squeezed her hands. "Sarah, listen to me closely. True love does not let itself be defeated by fear. If you love my son, fight for him. And if your father does not accept it, that is his problem, not yours." She nodded, drying her tears. "You are right. I am going to fight." And she did. Sarah confronted her father. She told him she was going to marry Michael with or without his blessing. Mr. Harrison had no choice but to accept. But I knew a man like that never accepts defeat, and I was right. The wedding preparations began. Michael was happy, Sarah too. But Mr. Harrison set conditions. "I want the wedding to be in the country club ballroom," he told Sarah. "I pay for everything, but it is done my way." Michael was not comfortable with that. "Mom, I want to pay my share. I do not like depending on him." "I know, son, but sometimes you have to compromise." "For Sarah." And he compromised. But I did not compromise, because something inside me told me that man was hiding something big, something dark. And one afternoon, while having coffee at a downtown shop, I saw something that froze my blood. I saw Robert Harrison with another woman and 2 small children. The woman kissed him on the mouth. The children called him Daddy. I stood paralyzed. I paid my bill. I left the place. I walked to my car. I sat down. I breathed. And then I knew what I had to do. I was going to investigate that man. Because if he was cheating on his wife, on his family, on everyone, then my son was about to enter a family of lies, and I was not going to allow it. For 3 days, I could not sleep well. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the same scene. Mr. Harrison kissing that woman, the children holding his hand, the way she looked at him, as if he were her entire world. And then I thought about Mr. Harrison's wife, about Mrs. Catherine. I had met her barely twice at the engagement dinners. She was an elegant woman, quiet, always with a polite but sad smile, as if she had been carrying an invisible weight for years. Now I understood why, but I needed to be sure. I needed proof, because accusing a man like Robert Harrison without proof would be destroying my son's wedding. And I did not want that. I only wanted to protect him. Then I did something I never thought I would do. I hired a private investigator. His name was Mark Reynolds. A friend whose husband had cheated on her years ago recommended him. He was discreet, professional. He had a small office downtown on the second floor above a dry cleaner. I climbed the stairs on a Tuesday afternoon. The hallway smelled of detergent and old coffee. I knocked on the door. A deep voice said, "Come in." I entered. Mark was a man of about 50, thin with glasses and a short-sleeved shirt. He had an old computer on his desk and metal filing cabinets against the wall. "Sit down, ma'am. How can I help you?" I sat down. I took a deep breath, and I told him everything. I told him my son was getting married, that the bride's father was a powerful, arrogant man, that I had seen him with another woman and 2 children, that I needed to know the truth. Mark took notes. He did not judge me. He did not ask unnecessary questions. "Do you have photos of the man?" I showed him a photo I had found on the internet. Mr. Harrison at a groundbreaking ceremony with his politician smile. "Do you know where you saw him with the other woman?" "In a coffee shop downtown, near the city center. It is called the Southern Star." "Do you remember the day and time?" "Last Friday. Around 4 in the afternoon." Mark nodded. "I need a week. I am going to follow him. I am going to find out everything I can. If he has another family, I will prove it. If there is more, that too." "More?" "Ma'am, a man who cheats like that so openly usually has more secrets. Financial problems, debts, shady business. I am going to check everything." I felt a chill. "How much do you charge?" $500 a week, plus expenses. It wasn't cheap, but I paid it, because my son's peace of mind was priceless. That week was one of the hardest of my life. Michael came home every day excited about the wedding plans. He showed me photos of the hall, the menu, the flowers. Sarah and he had chosen white roses. Their song would be a classic love ballad. "Mom, we are going to dance to that song together, okay? You and me, like when I was a kid." I smiled. I nodded, but inside I was dying of anguish. What if what Mark discovered destroyed everything? What if Sarah suffered because of her father? What if Michael hated me for interfering? But then I remembered that phrase, that damn phrase Mr. Harrison had said to my son. "I hope you know my daughter is accustomed to a certain standard of living. Not just anyone can support her." And my anguish turned into rage. That man had humiliated Michael from the start. He had treated him as if he were less, as if he did not deserve Sarah. Well, if I was going to discover something, I was not doing it to destroy the wedding. I was doing it to protect my son from a family of lies. On Friday of that week, Mark called me. "Mrs. Carter, I need you to come to my office. I have information." I arrived in less than an hour. I climbed the stairs, almost running. I entered without knocking. Mark was sitting in front of his computer. He looked at me seriously. "Sit down." I sat down. My hands were shaking. "What did you find?" Mark turned the screen toward me. "Robert Harrison has 2 families." I felt the air escape from my chest. On the screen there were photos of Mr. Harrison with that woman, entering an apartment in the suburbs, taking the children to school, kissing her in a supermarket parking lot. "Who is she?" I asked with a trembling voice. "Her name is Jessica Miller. She is 32 years old. She is an accountant. She works at Mr. Harrison's own company. Harrison and Associates. And the children? They are his, a 7-year-old boy and a 5-year-old girl. They are registered with the mother's last name, but I investigated. Mr. Harrison pays the rent for the apartment. He pays for the children's private school. He buys them clothes, toys, everything. With what money?" Mark looked at me intently. "With company money?" I felt the world stop. "What?" Mark pulled out a folder. He opened it. Inside there were documents, bank statements, bank transfers. Mr. Harrison has been embezzling money from the company for years. He makes transfers to personal accounts. He uses corporate cards for personal expenses. He pays for trips, hotels, expensive restaurants, all with money from Harrison and Associates. "And the company?" Mark sighed. "It is in serious trouble. It has debts with suppliers, labor lawsuits, 3 unfinished projects, and there are 2 criminal lawsuits against him for fraud." I put my hands to my face. "My God." "That is not all," Mark said. "What else?" "Mr. Harrison has personal debts. 2 credit cards maxed out, a loan with a bank for over $200,000, and he owes back taxes to the IRS for 3 years. How much does he owe in total?" Mark checked his notes. "Approximately $1.5 million. My breath caught. $1.5 million? "Yes, and according to my sources, the company is about to go under. It has 6 months. Maybe a year. After that, total bankruptcy." I remained silent, looking at those documents, those photos, that truth so dark. Robert Harrison was not the successful man everyone believed. He was a liar, a thief, a fraud, and my son was about to marry his daughter. Mark handed me copies of everything: photos, documents, transfer receipts, expense records. Everything was there. "What are you going to do with this?" he asked me. "I do not know," I replied with a broken voice. "I need to think." "Ma'am, I am going to tell you something. You hired me to find the truth, and the truth is ugly. But now that you have it, you have to decide what to do with it. I know. If you tell your son before the wedding, he might cancel everything, and maybe that would be for the best. But it could also destroy his relationship with Sarah. I know. If you say nothing, your son is going to enter a corrupt family. And when everything explodes, because it is going to explode, he is going to be caught in the middle." Though I closed my eyes. "And if I tell Mr. Harrison?" Mark shook his head. "A man like that is not going to accept that he was discovered. He is going to deny everything. He is going to threaten you. He is going to try to destroy you. So, what do I do?" Mark leaned back in his chair. "Wait. Observe, and when the right moment comes, act." I left that office with a folder full of secrets. I walked through the downtown streets aimlessly. The sun was hiding behind the buildings. The lights of the street food vendors were turning on. People walked fast in a hurry to get home. I walked slowly, carrying a weight I did not know how to release. I thought about Michael, about his smile, about his hope. I thought about Sarah, about her innocence. She was not to blame for having a father like that. I thought about Mrs. Catherine, about that silent sadness. Maybe she knew. Maybe she had been keeping quiet for years. And I thought about Mr. Harrison, about his arrogance, about his hypocrisy, about his cruelty, and I decided something. I was not going to say anything before the wedding. I was going to wait. I was going to observe. And if Mr. Harrison dared to humiliate my son again, then I was going to destroy him with the truth. I got home when it was already night. I put the folder at the bottom of my closet under some old blankets. I sat on the bed. I looked out the window. The city lights blinked like distant stars. And I took a deep breath, because I knew that what was coming was going to change everything. The following weeks were a silent torture. Every time I saw Michael, I smiled. Every time Sarah came to visit me, I hugged her. Every time someone mentioned the wedding, I nodded with enthusiasm. But inside, I carried that secret like a stone in my chest. I slept poorly. I ate little. I woke up in the early hours and sat in the kitchen, looking at that folder I had hidden in my closet. Sometimes I took it out. I reviewed the photos, the documents, the bank transfers. Everything was there. Every lie, every betrayal. And I asked myself, why do I not say anything? But the answer was always the same. Because if I did it now, Michael would hate me. He would think I was sabotaging his happiness. And Sarah would be devastated. No. I had to wait for the right moment, and that moment would arrive. One Saturday morning, Sarah called me. "Mrs. Carter, can we see each other? I need to talk to you." "Of course, dear." "What happened?" "It is about my dad. I prefer to tell you in person." We agreed to meet at a coffee shop near my house. I arrived before her. I ordered a black coffee. I sat by the window. When Sarah arrived, her eyes were red. She had been crying. She sat across from me. She took a deep breath and said, "My dad wants to control everything about the wedding." "What do you mean?" "He wants to choose the guest list. He wants only important people to go. He says he does not want common people at his event." I felt rage rising in my throat. Common people? Sarah nodded, wiping her tears with a napkin. I told him I wanted to invite Michael's cousins, his uncles, his college friends, and my dad said, "No, Sarah. This wedding is a social event, not a block party." I gripped my coffee cup so hard I thought it was going to break. "And what does your mom say?" "Nothing. My mom never says anything. She always does what he says." Exactly as I had imagined. "Sarah, listen to me closely," I told her, taking her hands. "This wedding belongs to you and Michael, not to your father. If he wants to control everything, then maybe you should get married a different way." She shook her head. "I cannot. My dad threatened not to pay for anything if I do not do things his way, and Michael and I do not have the money for a wedding like that. It would take us years to save." "Oh, then do it small, with the people you really love, with dignity." Sarah looked at me with those sad eyes, so similar to her mother's. "Mrs. Carter, I just want my dad to be proud of me, just once. But no matter what I do, it is never enough for him." My heart broke. Because I understood something. Sarah was not just trapped by money, she was trapped by the love she never received from her father. And that was worse than any debt. That afternoon when I returned home, I took out the folder again. I looked at the photos of Mr. Harrison with that other woman, with those children Sarah did not even know existed, and I thought, that man does not deserve his daughter's love. But I could not tell her yet, because destroying the image Sarah had of her father before the wedding would be cruel. She needed strength to get married. She needed hope. There would be time for the truth. 2 weeks before the wedding, there was a rehearsal dinner at the Harrison house. Michael invited me. I did not want to go, but he insisted. "Mom, please, I want you to get to know Sarah's family better." "Mr. Harrison has said he wants to talk to you." That made me nervous, but I accepted. The Harrison house was in a wealthy district. It was huge, 3 stories, garden with a fountain, garage for 4 cars. When I arrived, an employee opened the door. "Good evening, ma'am. Please come in." I entered. The floor was marble. The walls had huge paintings. Everything smelled of money, but I knew the truth. All of that was built on lies. Mrs. Catherine received me in the living room. She was an elegant woman, about 55 years old, with perfectly styled hair and a beige dress. "Mrs. Carter, how nice to see you." "Come in, please." She greeted me with a kiss on the cheek. Her perfume was expensive, but her gaze was empty. "Thank you for the invitation," I said. "It is a pleasure. Sarah speaks very highly of you." We sat down. There were appetizers, red wine, imported cheeses, all served by employees who moved in silence. Michael was sitting next to Sarah, holding her hand. She smiled, but she looked tense. And then Mr. Harrison appeared. He entered with that same arrogance as always. Dark suit, gold watch, salesman's smile. "Mrs. Carter, what a pleasure to have you in our home." I stood up. He extended his hand. I shook it firmly. "Thank you for having me." Sit down, sit down. We are going to have dinner in a few minutes, but first I want to make a toast." Mr. Harrison took a glass of wine. We all imitated him. "I want to toast to my daughter, Sarah," he said, looking at her. "She has always been my pride. Smart, beautiful, educated, and now she is about to get married." He paused. He looked at Michael. "With a hard-working, humble boy from a good family." The word humble sounded like an insult. Michael looked down. I squeezed my glass. Mr. Harrison continued, "I hope this marriage is the beginning of something big, because in this family we value effort, hard work, ambition." He looked me straight in the eye. "Do you not think so, Mrs. Carter?" I held his gaze. "I think that in this life the most valuable thing is honesty." There was an uncomfortable silence. Mr. Harrison smiled, but his eyes went cold. "Of course. Honesty. How important." We toasted, but I knew I had just issued him a warning, and he knew it too. During dinner, Mr. Harrison spoke nonstop about his business, his contacts, the projects he had built, the politicians he knew. "I have a new project," he said, cutting his steak. "A residential development in Chicago. 500 houses. It is going to be my biggest work." Mrs. Catherine smiled weakly. "That is great, dear." But I thought, with what money, if you are broke? Michael listened attentively. Sarah ate in silence. And I just observed. I observed how Mr. Harrison lied with such ease, how his wife pretended everything was fine, how Sarah swallowed her sadness with every bite. That entire family lived a lie, and I was about to destroy it. But not yet. Not yet. At the end of dinner, Mr. Harrison asked to speak to me alone. "Mrs. Carter, will you accompany me to my study?" I nodded. I followed him down a long hallway to a room with wooden shelves, books he had never read, and a huge desk. He closed the door. "Sit down." I sat down. He remained standing, looking down at me. "I want to talk to you about Michael." "I am listening." "He is a good boy, hard-working, respectful, but—" He paused. "But he has no future." I felt my blood boil. "Excuse me? He has no future," he repeated. "He earns little. He has no property. He has no big ambitions. And my daughter deserves more." I stood up. "My son has something that you will never understand. He has values. He has dignity. He has true love." Mr. Harrison laughed. "Love does not pay the bills, Mrs. Carter." "No, but honesty does give peace." He moved closer to me. His voice turned cold. "Look, I am going to be clear. I paid for this wedding. I pay for everything. And when they get married, Sarah is going to continue depending on me because your son cannot support her. So you better understand who is in charge here." I stared at him. I understand perfectly who thinks he is in charge. I left that study without saying more. I went down the stairs. Michael saw me and approached. "Mom, are you okay?" "Yes, son. Just tired. Let's go." We said goodbye. We got into the car. Michael drove in silence. When we arrived at my house, he said to me, "Mom, I know Mr. Harrison is difficult, but I do it for Sarah. She is worth it." I hugged him. "I know, son. I know." But inside, I thought, "Robert Harrison, your time has come. Just wait for the wedding day." The week before the wedding was chaos. Michael barely slept. He had to finish a project at work and at the same time resolve the last details of the ceremony. I saw him exhausted, stressed, but happy. "Mom, in a week I am getting married," he told me, with that smile that melted my heart. I cannot believe it. I made him coffee. ironed his shirt for the suit fitting, accompanied him to buy the rings, and all the while I carried that secret that weighed more every day. But something was changing inside me. It was no longer just rage against Mr. Harrison. It was a need for justice, because the more I saw him act, the more I realized that that man not only deceived his family, he deceived everyone. And the worst part, he enjoyed doing it. On Tuesday of that week, I received an unexpected call. It was Mark, the investigator. "Mrs. Carter, I need to see you. I found something else." "What did you find?" "I prefer to tell you in person. Can you come to my office this afternoon?" I went. I climbed those same stairs I already knew so well. The smell of detergent and old coffee was still there. Mark was waiting for me with another folder. "Sit down," he told me with a serious voice. I sat down. My hands were shaking. "What is wrong?" Mark opened the folder. He took out new documents. I investigated the finances of Harrison and Associates more thoroughly, and I found something serious. "What?" "Mr. Harrison not only embezzles money for his other family, he is also involved in construction fraud." My breath caught. "What kind of fraud?" 2 years ago, he won a bid to build a housing complex in a nearby state, 120 low-income housing units. The government gave him an advance of $5 million. And he only built 40 houses. The other 80 were never finished. He kept the money. He said there were problems with suppliers, that materials went up in price, that there were delays. But it was all a lie. My God, there are families who paid a down payment, who waited years and never received their house. Now there is a class action lawsuit against him and an investigation by the Anti-Corruption Prosecutor's Office. I felt the floor move beneath my feet. When is that going to explode? Mark checked his notes. "According to my sources, the prosecutor's office is going to issue an arrest warrant in the next 3 months. Maybe sooner? 3 months? Yes. Mr. Harrison is living his last days of freedom." I remained silent. Mark continued, "And there is more. The company is technically bankrupt. The employees have gone 2 months without receiving their full salary. There is machinery seized, 3 projects halted, and the bank has already started a collection process for the loan I mentioned." "And Mr. Harrison continues spending as if nothing is wrong?" "Exactly. Last week he bought a new car, a BMW. He paid for it in cash." "Where did he get that money?" Mark looked at me intently. "Probably from the company till or from some hidden account. This man is an expert at hiding money." I closed my eyes. "And his wife? Does Mrs. Catherine know anything about this?" "I do not know, but I doubt it. She comes from a traditional, conservative family. If she knew her husband had another family, she would probably have divorced already or at least confronted him. But there are no signs of that, so she lives deceived, like many wives of men like that." I sighed. "What else did you find?" Mark took out more photos. "I followed Mr. Harrison all week. He goes to Jessica's apartment 3 times a week, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. He arrives around 7 at night. He stays until 11, sometimes later. And his wife does not suspect? He tells her he has meetings, business dinners, meetings with clients, and she believes him, or pretends to believe him." I looked at the photos. Mr. Harrison entering the building, kissing Jessica on the balcony, playing with the children in the park. And I felt something I had not felt in a long time. Disgust. That night, I could not sleep. I stayed awake, sitting on my bed, looking out the window. Outside, the city slept. The building lights blinked. The silence was deep, and I thought. I thought about Michael, about his hope, about his love for Sarah. I thought about Sarah, about her innocence, about how she desperately sought the love of a father who did not deserve it. I thought about Mrs. Catherine, about her silence, about her sadness. I thought about those children, Mr. Harrison's secret children, who grew up without a present father, who lived in the shadows, And I thought about all those families who lost their savings, who waited years for a house that never arrived, who trusted a man who stole from them. And I understood something. This was no longer just about protecting my son. It was about doing justice. Robert Harrison had built his life on lies. He had trampled everyone in his path. He had used money, power, and arrogance to get away with it, and no one had stopped him until now. On Thursday afternoon, 2 days before the wedding, I went to visit a friend. Her name was Linda. I had known her for 20 years. She was a lawyer. She worked in family law. We sat in her office. I told her everything. I showed her the folders, the documents, the photos. Linda reviewed everything carefully. She said nothing for several minutes. Finally, she looked up. "Emily, this is explosive." "I know. If you make this public, you are going to destroy that family." "I know. Are you sure you want to do it?" I remained silent. Linda continued, "Look, I understand you want to protect your son, but think about Sarah. She is not to blame for having a father like that. If you reveal this on the wedding day, you are going to ruin the most important day of her life." "And if I say nothing?" I replied. "And if I let Michael enter that family of lies? And if Mr. Harrison continues humiliating him? And if he uses him? And if he destroys his self-esteem?" Linda sighed. "It is a difficult decision." "No, it isn't anymore." "What do you mean?" I stared at her. Mr. Harrison challenged me. He told me he was in charge, that my son was not enough, and he planned to humiliate him at his own wedding. "How do you know?" "I know. I know him. Men like him cannot help it. They need to demonstrate their power." "Always." Linda nodded. "And what are you going to do?" "I am going to wait. I am going to go to that wedding, and if Mr. Harrison dares to humiliate my son again, then I am going to reveal everything." "In public?" "In public." Linda looked at me with concern. "Emily, that is going to be brutal." "I know. The consequences are going to be enormous." "I know. And are you willing to live with that?" I took a deep breath. "Yes, because the truth is always better than the lie, even if it hurts." Linda kept silent. Then she said, "Then you need to be prepared, because when you reveal that, Mr. Harrison is going to deny everything. He is going to try to discredit you. He is going to say you are crazy, that you are jealous, that you made everything up. That is why I brought proof." Proof helps, but it is not always enough. You need witnesses. You need someone else to confirm what you say. "Who?" Linda thought for a moment. "Do you know anyone who works at Mr. Harrison's company?" I shook my head. "No." "Then you are going to have to trust that the evidence speaks for itself." I nodded. "It will." I left that office with absolute clarity. I knew what I had to do. I went to a print shop. I had copies made of all the documents, photos, bank statements, transfers, everything. I prepared 3 envelopes, one for Michael, one for Sarah, one for Mrs. Catherine. I put them in my purse, and I waited. On Friday night, the day before the wedding, Michael came to have dinner at my house. He was nervous but excited. "Mom, tomorrow is the day. I cannot believe it is finally here." I served him chicken pot roast, his favorite since he was a child. "Are you ready?" I asked him. "I think so." "Well, I am nervous, but happy. Very happy." "And Sarah?" "She is too, although she is a little stressed. Her dad keeps wanting to control everything." I felt a knot in my stomach. What did he do now? "Nothing serious. He just wants to give a long speech. He says he has important things to say." There it was, the confirmation I needed. Mr. Harrison was going to use that microphone to humiliate my son. I knew it, and I was going to be ready. That night, after Michael left, I took out the 3 envelopes. I put them on the kitchen table. I looked at them for hours, and I asked myself, am I doing the right thing? But then I remembered everything. I remembered the families who lost their homes. I remembered those children growing up without a father. I remembered Mrs. Catherine living a lie. I remembered Sarah seeking the love of a man incapable of giving it. And I remembered Michael, my son, my boy, the good, honest, hard-working man that monster had called an idiot. And I knew the answer. Yes, I was doing the right thing, because justice is not always comfortable, but it is always necessary. I went to sleep late that night, and I dreamed about the next day. I dreamed about Mr. Harrison taking that microphone. I dreamed about his arrogant smile. I dreamed about his poisonous words. And I dreamed about the moment I would stand up and snatch that microphone from him, and I would tell the truth that would destroy his world of lies. And when I woke up, I knew that dream was going to come true, because the moment had arrived, the moment of justice. The wedding day dawned with a clear sky. It was Saturday. The sun shone over the city. It was warm, but there was a gentle breeze moving the curtains of my window. I got up early. I had not slept well. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the same scene. Mr. Harrison in front of the microphone, his cruel words, Michael's face sinking in shame. But I also saw myself, standing up, taking that microphone, and telling the truth. I made coffee. I sat in the kitchen. I looked at the 3 envelopes I had left on the table. One for Michael, one for Sarah, one for Mrs. Catherine. I took them. I put them in my purse, along with the copies of all the documents, and I took a deep breath. Today, everything changes, I thought. The religious ceremony would be at 5 in the afternoon at St. Augustine's Parish, the reception at 7 in the country club ballroom. Michael had asked me to arrive early at the church. "Mom, I want you to be with me before going in. It gives me a lot of peace to see you." I arrived at 4. The church was decorated with white roses and ivory ribbons. It smelled of incense and fresh flowers. Everything was elegant, impeccable. Michael was in a side room with his groomsmen. When he saw me, he smiled. "Mom." I approached. I hugged him. He smelled of new cologne. He was nervous. His hands were trembling a little. "How do you feel?" I asked him. Nervous, happy, scared. All at the same time. I took his hands. "Michael, I want you to know something. Whatever happens today, I am always going to be on your side. Always." He looked at me strangely. "Whatever happens. Mom, are you okay?" I smiled. "Yes, son. I just wanted to tell you." I hugged him again, and I felt my heart breaking, because I knew that after today, nothing would ever be the same. The ceremony was beautiful. Sarah entered on Mr. Harrison's arm. She wore a white dress, simple but elegant. Her veil fell like a cascade of lace. She was radiant. Mr. Harrison walked with that chest puffed up with pride, as if he were delivering a trophy, not his daughter. When they reached the altar, Father Michael blessed the union. Michael and Sarah exchanged vows. They looked at each other with true, genuine, pure love. And I, sitting in the 3rd row, cried. I cried tears of happiness for my son, and I cried tears of sadness because I knew what was coming. The reception at the country club began at 7 sharp. The hall was huge. Round tables with white tablecloths, centerpieces with roses and candles, a dance floor in the center, a stage with a microphone and speakers. There were more than 200 guests. Businessmen, politicians, wealthy families, all dressed in expensive suits and designer dresses. And then there was us, my family, Michael's cousins, his college friends, his godfather who was an electrician, his godmother who worked in a stationery store. You could see the difference. 2 worlds in the same room, but Michael did not seem to notice. He was happy, dancing with Sarah, laughing with his friends, hugging his uncles. I sat at a side table. I observed everything. And I waited. The dinner went without problems. They served steak with potatoes, salad, mushroom soup. Everything delicious. People ate, talked, laughed. And then the moment for the toasts arrived. The master of ceremonies took the microphone. "Good evening, everyone. It is an honor to be here celebrating the union of Michael and Sarah. At this moment, the bride's father, Mr. Robert Harrison, has a few words to share. My heart began to beat faster. Mr. Harrison stood up, walked to the stage, took the microphone, smiled, and began to speak. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us on this very special night. Applause. As a father, this is a bittersweet moment, because today I give away my daughter, my princess, my pride. He looked at Sarah. She smiled with tears in her eyes. Then he looked at Michael, and his expression changed. Sarah has always been very special, smart, beautiful, capable. She could have chosen anyone. Pause. But she chose Michael. Nervous laughter. And, well, Michael is a hard-working boy, I cannot deny that. He comes from a humble family, but honest. The word humble sounded like poison. When Sarah told me she wanted to marry him, I told her, "Daughter, are you sure? This boy has nothing. He has no property. He has no business. He has no brilliant future." The room went silent. Michael looked down. His face went pale. Sarah took his hand, but she looked uncomfortable. Mr. Harrison continued, but Sarah insisted. And well, when a woman gets a whim, there is no way to make her change her mind. More laughter, but this time cruel. So today, on this very special day, I want to toast to my daughter, to her courage, to her stubbornness. He raised his glass. And I want to say something I already told my family in private. He looked straight at Michael. This kid is an idiot, but my daughter insisted on marrying him. The hall erupted in laughter. Some guests applauded. Others looked at each other uncomfortably. But I felt something inside me break. I looked at Michael. He had glassy eyes, his hands clenched into fists, his jaw tense. Sarah hugged him, whispering something in his ear. Mrs. Catherine looked at her plate, ashamed. And Mr. Harrison? Mr. Harrison kept smiling, enjoying his moment of power. Then I stood up. My legs were shaking, but I walked toward the stage. Everyone looked at me. Mr. Harrison saw me approaching. His smile vanished. "Mrs. Carter, what are you doing?" I did not answer. I went up to the stage. I snatched the microphone from his hands. "Excuse me, Mr. Harrison, but now it is my turn to speak." The room went absolutely silent. I looked at all the guests, 200 people looking at me. I took a deep breath. And I was ready. "Good evening. My name is Emily Carter. I am Michael's mother." My voice trembled, but it was firm. "A few minutes ago, Mr. Harrison called my son an idiot, in front of all of you, in front of his own daughter, on her wedding day." Silence. "And I want to say something. My son is not an idiot. My son is an honest, hard-working man, a man of integrity, a man who pays his debts, who keeps his word, who respects women, who loves with his whole heart." I looked at Mr. Harrison. "But you, Mr. Harrison, you do not know what it is to be a real man." His face turned red. "How dare you?" "I dare because I have proof." I pulled the documents out of my purse. I held them high. Over the last few weeks, I investigated your life, and I found things that everyone here should know. Mrs. Catherine stood up from her chair, pale. "What are you saying?" I looked at the guests. "Robert Harrison has 2 families." Gasps, murmurs. "He has a wife here, Mrs. Catherine, and he has another woman, Jessica Miller, with whom he has 2 children, a 7-year-old boy and a 5-year-old girl." Mrs. Catherine put her hands to her mouth. Her eyes filled with tears. Mr. Harrison tried to snatch the microphone from me. "That is a lie. She's crazy." I dodged him. "A lie? I have photos. I have addresses. I have bank transfer receipts." I showed the photos. People stood up to see. "Mr. Harrison pays the rent for Jessica's apartment. He pays for his children's school. He pays for everything." "With what money?" "With money from his company, Harrison and Associates." The company employees who were there looked at each other. But that is not all, I continued. Mr. Harrison is also a thief. Shut up, yelled Mr. Harrison. 2 years ago, he won a bid to build 120 low-income housing units. He received $5 million from the government. How many houses did he build? 40. And the rest of the money, he stole it. Shouting. Indignation. There are families who paid down payments, who waited years and never received their house, because this man stole their money. Mr. Harrison tried to leave the stage, but people surrounded him. I demand proof, he shouted. Here they are. I handed copies of the documents to the nearest guests. They passed from hand to hand. Bank statements, transfers, photos, everything. Mrs. Catherine was crying uncontrollably. Sarah was hugging her, in shock. Michael was looking at me, paralyzed, and I continued. Harrison and Associates is bankrupt. It owes more than $1.5 million. There are liens, lawsuits, and an investigation by the district attorney's office. A murmur ran through the hall. In the next few months, Mr. Harrison will be arrested, because justice, although late, always arrives. I looked Mr. Harrison straight in the eye. You called my son an idiot, but the real idiot is you, because you built your life on lies, and lies always collapse. I left the microphone on the stage. I stepped down, and I walked toward Michael. I hugged him. I am sorry, son, but I could not let him humiliate you again. Michael hugged me back, crying. Mom, is all that true? Yes, son, everything. The hall turned into chaos. People were talking, shouting, leaving. Mr. Harrison tried to defend himself, but no one believed him. Mrs. Catherine left with her sisters. Sarah ran after her. Michael remained standing in the middle of the empty hall, watching how everything crumbled. And I knew I had done the right thing, even if it hurt, even if everything had been destroyed, because the truth is always better than the lie, always. I still ask myself if I did the right thing. And you? What would you have done in my place? That night, there was no party. There was no dancing. There was no music. There was no laughter. Only the echo of the truth remained, bouncing against the walls of the empty hall. The guests left one by one, some indignant, others ashamed, others simply curious, checking their phones to confirm what they had just heard. The tables remained half-eaten, the glasses of champagne full, the white roses wilting under the lights that no one turned off. And in the middle of all that silent chaos, there was us. Michael sitting in a chair, with his head in his hands. Sarah standing next to him, crying silently. Mrs. Catherine, in a corner, being comforted by her sisters. And Mr. Harrison? Mr. Harrison had disappeared. He left as soon as he could, without giving explanations, without asking for forgiveness, without looking back, as cowards do. I approached Michael. I knelt in front of him. Son. He did not answer. Michael, look at me. He raised his face. His eyes were red, his jaw clenched. Why, Mom? Why did you do it? His voice was broken, full of pain. Because I could not let that man humiliate you again. But you destroyed my wedding. You destroyed everything. No, son, I did not destroy anything. He did, years ago. I only brought the truth to light. You could have told me before. You could have warned me in private. I tried, but you were so in love, so hopeful. You did not want to see the signs. Michael stood up. He walked to the window. He looked at the night without seeing it. Sarah hates me now. No, son, she does not hate you. Her family is destroyed because of you. No, her family was destroyed years ago. It is just that no one wanted to see it. Michael turned toward me. There was rage in his eyes. You had no right, Mom. You had no right to do that. Those words hurt me more than any blow. I had every right. I am your mother, and my job is to protect you, even if you do not understand it now. Protect me? You just humiliated me in front of 200 people. No, Michael. The one who humiliated you was Mr. Harrison. I only defended your dignity." He stayed quiet, breathing heavily. Then he said in a low voice, "I need to be alone." And he left the hall. I stood there, watching my son walk away, and I felt my heart splitting in two. Sarah approached me. Her makeup was ruined, her dress wrinkled, her eyes swollen from crying so much. "Mrs. Carter," I turned toward her. "Sarah, Is it true?" she interrupted me. "Is everything he said true?" I looked her in the eyes. "Yes, it is true." She put her hands to her face. She sobbed. "I cannot believe it. My dad has another family. He has other children. And I never knew anything." "I am sorry, Sarah." "How long did you know?" "For a few weeks." "And why did you not tell me before?" "Because I did not want to ruin your day. But when your father humiliated Michael, I could not stay silent." Sarah shook her head. "My mom is devastated. My aunts are furious. And I do not know what to feel." She collapsed into a chair. "All my life I believed my dad was a hero, a successful man, respected. And it turns out he is a liar, a thief, a monster." I sat next to her. I took her hand. "Your father is responsible for his own decisions. You are not to blame for anything." But I feel like I am. I feel like I should have seen the signs, the lies, the absences. You could not see them because you trusted him, and that is not your fault. That is what love does. It makes you blind. Sarah looked at me with those eyes full of pain. And now, what am I going to do? How am I going to look Michael in the eye? How am I going to... She broke down again. I hugged her. I let her cry on my shoulder. And I thought, this girl does not deserve this. But life does not always give us what we deserve. Mrs. Catherine approached after a while. Her sisters had left. She was alone. She walked slowly, as if every step hurt. "Mrs. Carter." I stood up. "Mrs. Catherine." We looked at each other in silence. Two women, two mothers, two survivors. "Is it true?" she asked with a trembling voice. "Everything you said. Is it true?" "Yes." She closed her eyes. A tear rolled down her cheek. I suspected it. For years. But I never wanted to confirm it. I am sorry." "No, you are not sorry." She looked at me harshly. "You came here to destroy my family." "No, I came to protect my son. And destroy my daughter in the process." "Your daughter is going to be fine, because she has something your husband never gave her. She has the truth." Mrs. Catherine laughed, but it was a bitter laugh, without joy. The truth. And what good is the truth to me now? My marriage is a lie. My life is a lie. Everything I built crumbled in one night. "No, it crumbled years ago. It is just that you did not want to see it." She looked at me with rage. "Who are you to judge me?" "I am not judging you. I understand why you stayed silent. Out of fear, out of shame. For the children, I understand. But that does not change the fact that your husband is a fraud." Mrs. Catherine took a deep breath. "I want to see the proof." I handed her the envelope with her name. She opened it. She reviewed the photos, the documents, the transfers. I saw how her face changed, from pain to rage, from rage to resignation. When she finished, she closed the envelope. "What are you going to do with this?" I asked her. "I do not know, but I'm going to tell you something. Robert Harrison is no longer my husband. I do not know if he ever was." She turned around and left, and I remained there, alone, surrounded by the remains of a wedding that never finished. I left the hall at 11 at night. Outside, the air was cool. The sky was clear. The stars were shining. I walked to my car. My legs were shaking. My hands, too. I sat in the driver's seat. I closed the door. And finally, I allowed myself to cry. I cried for Michael, for his pain, for his anger. I cried for Sarah, for her lost innocence. I cried for Mrs. Catherine, for all those years of lies. And I cried for myself, because I knew I had done the right thing, but I also knew I had lost something in the process. I had lost my son's trust, and that hurt more than anything. I arrived home past midnight. I entered. I closed the door. I took off my shoes. The house was empty, silent, cold. I sat on the sofa. I looked at the ceiling, and I thought, was it worth it? I did not know yet. Maybe I would never know. But there was something I did know. The truth always has a price, and I had just paid it. On Sunday morning, Michael did not call me, nor on Monday, nor on Tuesday. A week passed, then 2, and nothing. I tried to call him. He did not answer. I sent him messages. He did not reply. I went to his apartment. He did not open the door, and I understood. My son did not want to see me. Not yet. Maybe never. In those weeks, the scandal exploded. The newspapers published articles about Robert Harrison, about the fraud, about the unfinished houses, about the affected families. Some of those families contacted me. They thanked me for revealing the truth. They told me they had been waiting for justice for years. The district attorney accelerated the investigation. 2 months later, Mr. Harrison was arrested. I saw him on the news, handcuffed, walking toward a patrol car, with his head down. He was no longer the arrogant man from the wedding day. He was just a broken man, defeated. And I did not feel satisfaction. I only felt sadness, because justice had arrived, but at a very high cost. Sarah called me one afternoon. "Mrs. Carter, can we talk?" "Of course, dear." We met at a coffee shop, the same one where we had spoken weeks ago. She looked tired, thinner, but also stronger. "I want to thank you," she told me. "Thank you?" "Yes, for telling the truth, even though it hurt, even though it destroyed my world. You did what no one else had the courage to do." "How is your mom?" "She filed for divorce. She moved in with my grandmother. She is processing everything, but I think she is going to be okay." "And you?" "I am processing too. Discovering you have 2 siblings you never knew is strange, but I met Jessica and the kids." "Really?" "Yes. They are good kids. And Jessica, she did not know my dad was married either. He told her he was divorced." I sighed. "Your father deceived everyone." "I know, and now he is paying for it." She stayed quiet for a moment. Then she asked, "How is Michael?" "I do not know. He does not speak to me." "I know. He does not speak to me either." We looked at each other, 2 women who had lost the same man, for different reasons. "Give him time," said Sarah. "Michael is good, and when his anger passes, he will understand." "I hope you are right." "I am. Because if there is one thing I learned from all this, it is that the truth, even if it hurts, always makes us stronger." I smiled. For the first time in weeks. "You are very wise, Sarah." "No, I just learned from the best." She took my hand. "Thank you, Mrs. Carter, for protecting Michael, and for protecting me too, even though I did not see it at that moment." And there, in that coffee shop with the sun coming through the window, I felt something I had not felt in a long time. Peace. Michael finally called me 3 months later. "Mom." Just hearing his voice made me cry. "Son, can we see each other?" "Sure, whenever you want." "Tomorrow? At your house?" "Yes." I arrived at 6 in the evening. Sarah was there. The 2 of them came holding hands. I opened the door. I looked at them. There was so much to say, so much to explain, but Michael just hugged me, and he said, "Forgive me, Mom, for everything I said to you, for how I treated you. You were right. About everything." I cried on his shoulder. "No, son, you forgive me for ruining your wedding." "You did not ruin anything. You saved my life. Our lives." Sarah nodded. "It is true, Mrs. Carter. If you had not spoken, I would have continued living a lie. And Michael would have suffered years of humiliation." We sat in the living room. I made them coffee, like in the old days, and Michael told me, "Mom, I learned something. I learned that sometimes love also means telling difficult truths, even if they hurt, even if they drive us apart for a while." "And the wedding?" I asked. Michael and Sarah looked at each other. "We are going to get married again," said Sarah. "Small, only close family, true friends, without lies, without appearances, and without Mr. Harrison," added Michael. I smiled. That sounds perfect. That night when they left, I sat in the living room, looking out the window, the city lights, the dark sky. And I thought about everything that had happened. I had lost a lot, my son's trust for a while, the illusion of a perfect wedding, the peace of my conscience, but I had also gained something. I had gained the certainty that I did the right thing. Because defending those you love is not always easy, but it is always necessary, and the truth, even if it hurts, always sets us free. Always. The months that followed were of reconstruction, not just for Michael and Sarah, also for me, because I discovered something I did not expect, that telling the truth does not make you a hero. It makes you an uncomfortable witness, someone everyone respects, but few want to have close. Some people called me brave, others called me meddlesome, and others simply stopped talking to me. But I learned to live with that, because inner peace is worth more than external approval. Michael and Sarah got married again 3 months later. It was a small ceremony in an old chapel downtown, only 30 people, close family, real friends. There was no ballroom. There was no gala dinner. There was no list of expensive gifts. After the ceremony, we went to eat at a family restaurant. We ate barbecue, corn on the cob, mashed potatoes. We drank iced tea. We laughed. We told stories. It was perfect, because it was real. When Michael asked me to dance with him, he played "Can't Help Falling in Love" by Elvis Presley, the same song he had chosen for the first wedding. "Mom," he told me while we danced, "thank you." "Why, son?" "For teaching me that true love is not built on appearances. It is built on truth, even if it hurts." I hugged him tight. "I am always going to protect you, Michael. Always." "I know, Mom, and forgive me for not understanding it sooner." "There is nothing to forgive." We danced in silence, and I felt something inside me heal, because my son had returned. And that was the only thing that mattered. Sarah also sought me out that day. "Mrs. Carter, can I talk to you?" We went out to the restaurant garden. There were lilac bushes blooming. The air smelled of damp earth and purple flowers. "What is it, dear?" "I want to tell you something about my dad." "What happened?" Sarah took a deep breath. "I went to visit him in prison." I was surprised. "You went?" "Yes, 2 weeks ago." "And how was it?" "Horrible, but necessary." She sat on a bench. I sat next to her. When I entered the visiting room, I almost did not recognize him. He was skinny, haggard, in an orange jumpsuit. He no longer looked like the powerful man everyone knew. "What did he tell you?" "At first, nothing. He just looked at me, as if he could not believe I was there." Sarah wiped away a tear. Then he told me, "Sarah, forgive me. Forgive me for everything." "And what did you say?" I told him the truth. I told him, "Dad, I do not know if I can forgive you. You lied to me my whole life. You lied to Mom. You lied to Jessica, to those kids, to the families who trusted you. You destroyed lives, including your own." How did he react? He cried. For the first time in my life, I saw my dad cry. He told me I was right, that he had been a coward, that he had built his life on lies because he was afraid of not being enough. Sarah looked at me. He told me he was always afraid people would discover who he really was. A poor boy from a trailer park who pretended to be rich all his life, who bought things he could not afford to impress people who did not care about him. I felt a pang of sadness. And what did you feel? I felt pity because I understood my dad was not a monster. He was a broken man who made terrible decisions, and now he is paying for them. Did you forgive him? Sarah shook her head. Not yet, but someday I will, because holding a grudge only hurts me, not him. I smiled. You are very wise, Sarah. I learned from you. You taught me that the truth, even if it hurts, always sets us free. She took my hand. Thank you, Mrs. Carter, for not staying silent, for defending Michael, and for defending me, too, even though I did not ask for it. I hugged her. I am always going to be here for you. That night, when I returned home, I sat in the kitchen with a cup of chamomile tea. I looked out the window. The moon was full, illuminating the empty streets, and I thought about everything that had happened. I thought about Mr. Harrison, about how he had built an empire of lies that collapsed in one night. I thought about Mrs. Catherine, about how she had found the courage to divorce and start over at 55. I thought about Sarah, about how she had transformed her pain into wisdom. And I thought about Michael, about how he had learned that true love does not need luxuries, it only needs truth. And then I understood something. Justice does not always arrive quickly, but it always arrives. A few weeks later, I received a letter. It came from the district attorney's office. They asked me to testify as a witness in the case against Robert Harrison. I accepted. I went to the courthouse on a Tuesday morning. It was an old building with long hallways and gray walls. It smelled of old paper and reheated coffee. I sat in the waiting room. There were other people there. Some were families who had lost their savings because of Mr. Harrison. Others were company employees who had not been paid in months. An older woman approached me. "Are you Emily Carter?" "Yes." "I am Martha Henderson. My husband and I paid a down payment for a house 3 years ago. We never received it. We lost all our savings." I stood up. I hugged her. "I am so sorry." "No, thank you. That man is paying for what he did. Thank you for having the courage to speak." Other people approached. They thanked me. They told me their stories. And I understood that what I had done had not only protected my son, it had given a voice to all those people who had been silenced. When it was my turn to testify, I entered the room. There was a judge, a prosecutor, defense lawyers, and Mr. Harrison. He was sitting at a table, handcuffed. He looked at me when I entered, but there was no longer arrogance in his eyes, only defeat. The prosecutor asked me questions. I told him everything. How I had discovered the truth, how I had hired an investigator, how I had found the evidence. I presented the documents, the photos, the transfers. Everything was recorded, documented, undeniable. When I finished, the judge thanked me. "Mrs. Carter, your testimony has been valuable. Thank you for your cooperation." I left that room with the certainty that I had done the right thing, not just as a mother, but as a citizen. 2 months later, Mr. Harrison was sentenced. 12 years in prison for fraud and embezzlement. I did not go to the hearing, but Sarah called me to tell me. "He is in prison, Mrs. Carter. He is going to be there a long time." "How do you feel?" "Sad, but also relieved, because finally there was justice." "And your mom?" "She is fine. She started working. She opened a small craft shop. She says for the first time in her life she feels she is the owner of her own destiny." I smiled. "I am happy for her." "And is there anything else?" Sarah said. "What?" "Jessica also walked away from my dad. She moved to Ohio with her kids. She started from zero, and last week she wrote to me." "She did?" "Yes, she told me she was very sorry for everything that happened, that she did not know the whole truth either." "And what did you tell her?" "That it was not her fault, that my dad deceived us all, and that I hope someday we can meet, because those kids are my siblings, and they deserve to have a family." I was left speechless. "Sarah, you are incredible." No, I just learned that life is too short to hold grudges, and that true family is not the one that shares blood. It is the one that shares truth. That night I took out a shoebox I kept in my closet. Inside were old photos of when Michael was a child, of when he played in the park, of when he graduated from college. I looked at those photos, and I thought about everything we had lived through. I thought about the nights when we did not have money to pay the rent, the times we ate beans because there was not enough for meat, the times Michael asked me, "Mom, why don't we have a car like the other kids?" And I told him, "Because what matters is not what you have, son. It is who you are." I closed the box because I understood that everything I had done, all the difficult decisions I had made, all the nights I had cried alone, had been worth it. Because my son was a good, honest, hard-working man of integrity, and that was more valuable than any fortune. One Sunday afternoon, Michael and Sarah came to visit me. They brought news. "Mom, we have something to tell you," said Michael with a huge smile. "What is it?" Sarah touched her belly. "I am going to be a grandmother," I said with tears in my eyes. "Yes!" shouted Michael, hugging me. "You are going to be a grandmother." I cried with happiness because after so much darkness, finally there was light. After so much pain, finally there was hope. And after so much truth, finally there was peace. That night, before sleeping, I wrote something in my journal, something I wanted to remember always. Today I learned that life does not always give us what we deserve, but if we are brave, if we defend the truth, if we protect those we love, life gives us something better. It gives us inner peace, and that, in the end, is the only thing that matters. I closed the journal, turned off the light, and slept peacefully. For the first time in months. Months passed. Sarah's belly grew. Michael was excited. He painted the baby's room blue. He bought a crib. He read books on fatherhood. And I knitted little clothes. I prepared blankets. I imagined what it would be like to have a grandson. One day, Sarah called me. "Mrs. Carter, I want to ask you something." "Tell me, dear." "When the baby is born, could you be at the birth? Since my mom is also going to be there, I thought it would be nice for both grandmothers to be together." My eyes filled with tears. It would be an honor. The baby was born in March, a boy, healthy, beautiful, with Michael's eyes and Sarah's nose. When I held him in my arms for the first time, I felt the world stop. He was so small, so fragile, so perfect. "What is he going to be called?" I asked. Michael and Sarah looked at each other. "Is he going to be called Michael?" Michael said. "Little Michael. Why Michael?" "After Father Michael, the priest who married us. He told us something that day we never forgot." "What did he tell you?" Sarah responded. "He told us, the truth is the foundation of all true love. Without truth, there is no trust, and without trust, there is no love." Michael continued, "And we thought that was a good name for our son, because we want him to grow up knowing that the truth is always the most important thing." I hugged my grandson. "Welcome to the world, little Michael. You are going to grow up in a family that loves you, that protects you, and that is always going to tell you the truth." Mrs. Catherine was there too. She approached. She smiled at me. "Thank you, Emily." "Why?" "For saving me. For getting my family out of that lie. I did not have the courage, but you did." I took her hand. "We all have our moment. Yours arrived when you decided to divorce. Mine arrived when I decided to speak." We hugged. 2 women, 2 survivors, 2 grandmothers. That night, when I returned home, I sat in the living room. I looked at a photo Michael had given me. It was of the 4 of us. Him, Sarah, baby Michael, and me, all smiling. And I thought about the whole road we had traveled, from that terrible night at the wedding to this moment of peace. And I understood something profound. Justice is not revenge. Justice is restoration. It is giving people what they deserve, not out of malice, but out of balance. Mr. Harrison deserved to pay for his lies. Catherine deserved to live in truth. Sarah deserved to know her father as he was. And Michael deserved to be defended. That was justice. And I had been the instrument of that justice, not because I was special, but because I decided not to stay silent. A few weeks later, I met one of the families affected by Mr. Harrison. It was at the market. A woman recognized me. "You are Emily Carter, right?" "Yes. I want to thank you for speaking up, for defending the truth. Thanks to you, we recovered part of our money. Not all, but something. I am very glad. You know, I also kept silent for years. My husband cheated on me, and I said nothing because I was afraid of being left alone, afraid of not being able to support my children. I understand. But when I saw what you did, when I saw that you stood up and told the truth, even though it cost you, it gave me courage, and I confronted my husband, and I divorced." She looked at me with tears in her eyes. "Now I live alone, but I live in peace, and that is priceless." I hugged her. "I am so happy for you. Thank you for teaching me that it is never too late to tell the truth." That conversation stayed with me because I understood that what I had done had not only affected my family, it had inspired other women, other mothers, other survivors to raise their voices. And now, while I tell you this, while I remember every moment of that night that changed everything, I ask myself if I would do the same thing again. And the answer is yes, 1,000 times yes, because defending those you love is not optional. It is a duty, and the truth, even if it hurts, is always better than the lie. Always. 2 years passed since that night. 2 years since I took that microphone and told the truth. 2 years since Robert Harrison's world collapsed. And in those 2 years, I saw how life itself took charge of doing justice. Because I learned something. Karma is not revenge. It is balance. It is life giving back to everyone what they sowed. And Mr. Harrison harvested exactly what he planted. One Saturday afternoon, while taking care of little Michael in the park, I received a call from Sarah. "Mrs. Carter, can you come to my house? I need to talk to you." "Did something happen?" "Yes, but I prefer to tell you in person." I arrived at her house an hour later. Michael was working. Sarah opened the door. She looked tired, but calm. "What happened, dear?" We sat in the living room. She prepared lemon tea. "My dad sent me a letter from prison." "What did he tell you?" Sarah took the envelope out of her purse. It was a handwritten letter. The handwriting was shaky, as if he had written it with difficulty. "Can I read it to you?" "Of course." Sarah unfolded the letter and read, "Dear Sarah, I do not know if you will read this. I do not know if you will forgive me someday, but I need to write to you. I have been in this cell for 2 years. 2 years with a lot of time to think, to remember, to regret. Here there are no luxuries, there is no power, there is no admiration, only silence. And in that silence, I could finally listen to my own conscience. I was a bad husband, a bad father, a bad man. I lied to your mother for 30 years. I took her youth, her trust, her peace. I lied to you, my daughters. I made you believe that money was the most important thing, that success was measured in cars and big houses. And I lied to Jessica and my other children. I promised them a future I could never give them. But above all, I lied to myself. I convinced myself I was a successful, important, respected man, when in reality I was just a coward, an imposter, an empty man who bought things to fill a void that was never filled. Today, I woke up in my cell and looked in the mirror, and I did not recognize the man who was there, skinny, gray-haired, with deep wrinkles, with tired eyes. And I thought, is this what is left of Robert Harrison? The answer is yes, this is what is left, a broken man who lost everything. I lost my family, my company, my freedom, my dignity, and worst of all, I lost my chance to be a good father. Sarah, I do not ask you to forgive me. I do not deserve it. I only ask you to learn from my mistakes, not to make the same ones, to raise your son with love, with truth, with humility, and to know that, although I was a bad father, I always loved you. In my wrong way. But I loved you. I wish you the best, daughter. To you, to Michael, and to my grandson. Your father, Robert. Sarah finished reading. She wiped her tears with the back of her hand. I was crying too. What are you going to do? I asked her. I do not know. Part of me wants to forgive him, but another part still hurts. Forgiveness is not something that happens overnight. It is a path, and you decide when you are ready to walk it. Sarah nodded. What I do know is that I no longer hold a grudge, because a grudge only poisons me, not him. I hugged her. You are very strong, Sarah. I learned from the best. A few months later, I met Martha Henderson, the woman who had lost her savings because of Mr. Harrison. We were at the supermarket. She recognized me and approached. Mrs. Carter, how are you? Good, Martha. And you? Better, much better. Thanks to Mr. Harrison's sentence, we managed to recover part of the money. Not all, but something. I am very glad. And there is something else. My husband and I bought a small plot of land in the countryside. We are building our house ourselves, little by little. But it is ours. I smiled. That is wonderful. Yes, and do you know what is best? That we are building it with honesty, without deceit, without lies. And that gives us peace. Honesty always gives peace. Martha took my hands. Thank you, Mrs. Carter, for not staying silent, for defending us. You changed our lives. No, Martha, you changed your own lives. I only told the truth, but you had the courage to fight. We said goodbye with a hug, and I felt that something inside me healed a little more. Another year passed. Little Michael turned 3. He was a happy, curious, intelligent boy. He looked so much like his father that sometimes my heart ached with love. Michael had been promoted at work. Now he was a project manager. He earned well. He was not rich, but he lived with dignity. Sarah had finished her master's in architecture. She worked designing eco-friendly houses. She was doing very well, and I remained the same, but calmer, more at peace. One day Michael came to visit me. Mom, do you remember Mr. Harrison? Of course. Why? Sarah told me he is very sick. He has diabetes, and since there is no good medical care in prison, he is getting worse. How serious? Serious. He lost a toe, and they say he might lose more. I felt a pang of sadness. And how is Sarah handling that? Badly. She wants to go see him, but she is afraid. Afraid of what? Afraid of feeling pity. Afraid of believing his lies again. Tell her to go, but to go for herself, not for him. What do you mean? That she goes to close that chapter, to say what she needs to say, not to save him, because he has to live the consequences of his actions. Michael nodded. You are right, Mom, as always. Sarah went to visit Mr. Harrison 2 weeks later. When she returned, she came to my house. She needed to talk. How was it? I asked her. Hard, very hard. Tell me. We sat in the kitchen. I served her coffee, as always. When I entered the visiting room, I almost did not recognize him. He was in a wheelchair, skinny, pale, with completely white hair. Her voice broke. He looked at me and said, Thank you for coming, daughter. I did not think you would. And what did you tell him? I told him, I came because I needed to close this. I needed to tell you how I feel. And how do you feel? Sarah took a deep breath. I told him, Dad, I am angry with you because you lied to us, because you hurt us, because you chose money over us. But I am also sad because you wasted so much time being someone you were not. And now you are here, alone, sick, with nothing. What did he say? He cried. He asked for my forgiveness. He told me he wished he could turn back time, that he would do everything differently. Did you believe him? Sarah shrugged. I do not know. Maybe yes, maybe no. But it does not matter anymore because the past cannot be changed. You can only learn from it. Very true. Before leaving, I told him something else. What? I told him, Dad, I hope you find peace truly, but that peace has to come from you, not from me, nor from Mom, nor from anyone else, only from you. I felt a lump in my throat. That was very wise, Sarah. Do you know what the last thing he said to me was? What? He told me, I once called Michael an idiot, but the real idiot was always me because I had everything that mattered and I lost it chasing things that were worth nothing. We stayed in silence because those words said it all. Mr. Harrison died 6 months later. It was in the prison infirmary, alone, without family, without friends, just a guard who found him in the morning. Sarah received the news. She cried, not because she missed him, but because she cried for the father she could have had and never did. They held a small funeral, just Sarah, Mrs. Catherine, and Sarah's sisters. Michael did not go. He asked me if he should go. It is your decision, son, but remember, respect is not for the dead, it is for the living. If you go, go for Sarah, not for him. Michael decided not to go, and Sarah understood. After the funeral, Sarah called me. Mrs. Carter, do you know what is the saddest thing? What? That at the funeral, it was just us women. All those people he called friends, all those businessmen and politicians, none of them came. It is just that they were never friends. They were just contacts, and contacts disappear when there is no power anymore. You are right. My dad died alone, without money, without family, without nothing. Everything he built life took away. That is karma, dear. It is not revenge. It is balance. Your father sowed lies and harvested loneliness. Sarah sighed. You know, Mrs. Carter, a few years ago I would have said my dad was a successful man, that he had it all, but now I understand he had nothing. Because the most important thing in life is not what you have, it is what you leave behind. And my dad left nothing good behind. But you are going to leave something good? How do you know? Because you learned from his mistakes, because you are raising little Michael with love, with truth, with values, and that is a legacy. One Sunday afternoon, the whole family came to eat at my house. Michael, Sarah, little Michael. Mrs. Catherine came too. I prepared a Sunday roast, everyone's favorite. We ate, we laughed, we told stories, and at one point, little Michael, who was now 4 years old, asked me, Grandma, why did I never meet my other grandpa? Everyone went silent. I looked at Sarah. She nodded, giving me permission to answer. I knelt in front of Michael. I looked him in the eyes. Because your other grandpa made bad decisions, my love, and bad decisions have consequences. What are consequences? They are what happens when you do something bad. Life teaches you, so you learn. And did he learn? Yes, he learned, but very late. Michael thought for a moment. Then I'm going to do good things, so I have good consequences. We all smiled. Exactly, my love, exactly. I hugged him tight, and I thought, this boy is going to change the world because he grew up in truth. That night, after everyone left, I sat in my rocking chair. I looked at the photos on the wall. Photos of Michael as a boy, of his wedding, the second one, the real one, of little Michael on his birthdays, and I thought about the whole road we had traveled, from that terrible night at the country club to this moment of peace, and I understood something profound. Karmic justice is not magic. It does not fall from the sky. It is the sum of our decisions. Robert Harrison chose to lie, chose to steal, chose to betray, and life gave him back loneliness, sickness, death in a cell. I chose to tell the truth, chose to defend my son, chose dignity over appearance, and life gave me back peace, family, true love. That is justice. It is not revenge, it is balance. A few months later, Sarah invited me to a conference. A conference? About what? It is about women entrepreneurs. I want you to come with me. Why? Because you are my inspiration. We went. It was at a downtown hotel. There were about 200 women there. Sarah went up on stage. She was going to give a talk about her work as an architect, but when she took the microphone, she said something I did not expect. Before talking about architecture, I want to talk to you about my mother-in-law, Emily Carter. She pointed at me. Everyone turned to look. I blushed. 3 years ago, my life collapsed. I discovered my father had lived in lies his whole life, and I did not know what to do. But Emily taught me something. She taught me that the truth, even if it hurts, always makes us stronger. That defending what is right is not easy, but it is always worth it. She stood up at my wedding and told the truth when everyone expected silence. And although at that moment I did not understand it, now I know she saved me. She saved me from living a lie. She saved me from repeating my father's mistakes. And she taught me that a brave woman is not the one who has power. She is the one who tells the truth, even if it costs her everything. The women applauded. Sarah came down from the stage. She hugged me. Thank you, Mrs. Carter, for being my example. I cried because I understood that what I had done had not only changed my life, it had changed the lives of many women. And now, 3 years after that night, I can say with certainty that life does do justice. Not always fast, not always as we expect, but always. Robert Harrison had power. He had money. He had admiration, but he died alone. Without love, without peace, without a legacy. I never had power. I never had money. I never had admiration. But I have something much more valuable. I have my son. I have my daughter-in-law. I have my grandson. I have inner peace. And I have the certainty that I did the right thing. That is true justice. 5 years have passed since that night. 5 years since I took that microphone and changed the course of our lives. Today, I am 60 years old. Michael is 33. Little Michael is 5. And Sarah is pregnant again. This time, it will be a girl. They are going to name her Emily. When they told me, I cried for hours. Why Emily? I asked them. Sarah took my hands. Because we want our daughter to grow up knowing that there was a woman in this family who had the courage to tell the truth, who stood up when everyone expected silence, who defended what was right, even if it cost her everything. We want her to be like you, Mrs. Carter, strong, brave, honest. I did not know what to say. I just hugged my son and my daughter-in-law, and I cried with happiness, because I understood that my story would not end with me. It would live in that girl and in her children, and in her grandchildren, the legacy of truth. This morning I woke up early. I made coffee, like every morning. I sat in my rocking chair by the window. I watched the sunrise. The city was waking up slowly. The birds were singing. The sun painted the sky orange and pink, and I thought about everything I had lived. I thought about my youth, about the difficult years after the divorce, about the nights when I did not know how I was going to feed my children. I thought about Michael as a boy, about how he asked me why his dad did not live with us, and how I explained to him with simple words that sometimes love is not enough to keep a family together. I thought about all those years working, cleaning houses, selling food, doing whatever was necessary so my children had what they needed. And I thought about that night at the country club, about Robert Harrison in front of the microphone. This kid is an idiot, but my daughter insisted on marrying him. Those words changed everything because they forced me to make a decision. Keep quiet and protect the peace, or speak up and defend dignity, and I chose dignity, always dignity. I got up from the rocking chair. I went to my room. I opened the drawer of my nightstand. Inside was a journal, the same one where I had written that night. 5 years ago, I opened it. I read what I had written. Today, I learned that life does not always give us what we deserve, but if we are brave, if we defend the truth, if we protect those we love, life gives us something better. It gives us inner peace. I smiled, because those words were still true. I kept leafing through the journal. There were more pages, more thoughts, more lessons, and I decided to write something new, something that summarized everything I had lived. I took a pen and I wrote, "To the woman who reads this someday, maybe you are my granddaughter Emily. Maybe you are another woman who is going through something difficult. I do not know, but if you are reading this, I want you to know something. Life is going to put you in situations where you will have to choose between truth and comfort, between defending what is right and keeping the peace, between being brave and being quiet. And in those moments, you are going to be afraid of losing the people you love, afraid of being left alone, afraid of the consequences. But let me tell you something I learned after 60 years of life. Silence protects no one. It only protects lies, and lies, sooner or later, always explode. They always hurt. They always destroy. So if you have to choose the truth, even if it hurts, even if it costs you, even if they push you away. Because the truth is the only foundation on which you can build something real, a real love, a real family, a real life. I made that decision 5 years ago, and I lost many things in the process. I lost the illusion of a perfect wedding. I lost my son's trust for a time. I lost the approval of many people, but I gained something more valuable. I gained my dignity. I gained my inner peace, and I gained the respect of the people who really matter. Today, my son loves me. My daughter-in-law respects me. My grandson admires me. And that is worth more than any external approval. So do not be afraid to tell the truth. Do not be afraid to defend what is right. Do not be afraid to be brave, because brave women are the ones who change the world, one truth at a time. With love, Emily Carter. I closed the journal, I put it in the drawer, and I took a deep breath, because I felt I had closed a cycle. I had told my story. I had left my legacy. I had said what I needed to say. And now I could move on, with peace. That afternoon, Michael and Sarah came to visit me with little Michael. The boy ran toward me as soon as he entered. "Grandma, Grandma!" I picked him up. I hugged him. He smelled of baby soap and cookies. "How is my prince?" "Good. Today at school I learned about heroes." "Oh yeah? And who are the heroes?" "The teacher said heroes are people who do difficult things to help others." "Very true." Michael looked at me with those big, curious eyes. "Grandma, are you a hero?" I was left speechless. Michael smiled. Sarah, too. "Why do you ask that, my love?" "Because my mommy told me you did something very difficult, that you told the truth when no one else wanted to, and that saved us." My eyes filled with tears. "I am not a hero, Michael. I am just a grandma who loves her family very much. But heroes are like that too. They love their family and protect them." I hugged him tight. "Then yes, my love, I am a hero. Your hero." Little Michael laughed and gave me a kiss on the cheek. And in that moment, I felt that everything had been worth it. Every tear, every fear, every sleepless night, everything. Because I had protected my family. And that was the only thing that mattered. After eating, Sarah asked to speak to me alone. We went out to the garden. There were flowers blooming. The air smelled of wet earth. "Mrs. Carter, there is something I want to tell you." "Tell me, dear." "I went to visit my dad's grave." "How did it go?" "Good. I brought flowers. I sat there for a while and I talked to him." "What did you say?" Sarah took a deep breath. "I told him I forgave him." I stayed quiet, waiting. "I told him, Dad, for a long time I hated you. I blamed you. I wished you had never existed. But today I understand something. You were human too. You carried wounds too. You were afraid too. And you made bad decisions. Decisions that hurt a lot of people. But holding a grudge against you only hurts me. So today I forgive you. Not because you deserve it, but because I deserve peace. Her voice broke. And do you know what, Mrs. Carter? When I said those words, I felt like something heavy lifted from my chest, like finally I could breathe. I hugged her. Forgiveness is not for the other person. It is for us, to free us. I know. And thanks to you, I learned that. Because you taught me that defending the truth does not mean living with resentment. It means living with dignity. Exactly, dear. Exactly. We stayed there, hugging in the garden. 2 women, 2 generations, 2 intertwined stories. And I understood that my legacy was not just truth. It was also forgiveness, justice without revenge, balance without hate. That night, after everyone left, I sat in the living room with a cup of tea. I turned on the television. There was a program about women who had changed their communities. One of the interviewees was Martha Henderson, the woman who had lost her savings because of Mr. Harrison. I recognized her immediately. The interviewer asked her, "How did you manage to move forward after losing everything?" Martha smiled. "There was a woman who inspired me. Her name is Emily Carter. She had the courage to tell the truth when everyone expected silence. And that taught me that it is never too late to defend what is right." "And what did you do?" "I confronted my situation. I sued, I fought, and I recovered part of my money. With that, I bought a small piece of land. My husband and I built our house with our own hands. And now we live in peace, because it is a house built on truth, not on lies." The interviewer nodded. "What would you say to other women who are going through something difficult?" Martha looked straight at the camera. "I would tell them not to be afraid to tell the truth, not to be afraid to defend what is right, because silence does not protect us. It only protects lies, and we deserve to live in truth." I turned off the television, and I cried. But this time they were not tears of sadness, they were tears of joy, because I understood that what I had done had inspired other women, other mothers, other grandmothers, other daughters, to raise their voices, to defend the truth, to live with dignity. And that was a legacy. Today, while I write this, I am 60 years old, but I feel younger than ever, because finally I understand the meaning of my life. I did not come to this world to be rich. I did not come to be famous. I did not come to be perfect. I came to be brave, to tell the truth when everyone was silent, to defend those I loved when no one else did, to teach my family that dignity is worth more than any approval. And I think I succeeded, because when I look at my son, I see an honest man, hardworking, upright. When I look at my daughter-in-law, I see a strong woman, wise, compassionate. And when I look at my grandson, I see hope. I see future. I see light. That is what I leave behind. Not money, not property, not fame. I leave values. I leave truth. I leave love. And that is more valuable than any fortune. Last week, Michael asked me something. "Grandma, when you are old, really old, are you going to die?" "Yes, my love, someday. And then I won't see you anymore." "Not with your eyes, but with your heart." "How?" I knelt in front of him. I looked him in the eyes. "Every time you tell the truth, I am going to be there." "Really?" "Yes. Every time you defend someone you love, I am going to be there. Every time you are brave, I am going to be there. And how will I know you are there? Because you are going to feel a warmth in your chest, a peace, and you are going to know I am with you." Michael smiled. "Then you are never going to leave." "Never, my love. Never." I hugged him, and I knew it was true, because legacies do not die. They only transform. Tonight, while I look at the stars from my window, I think about everything I have lived. And I ask myself, what would I say to the women who read my story? I would tell them this: do not be afraid to be brave. Do not be afraid to tell the truth. Do not be afraid to defend what is right, even if everyone tells you you are crazy, because the world needs more brave women. Women who stand up when everyone expects silence. Women who say enough when everyone says endure. Women who choose dignity over comfort, because those women change the world. One truth at a time. One family at a time. One generation at a time. And if my story helps a single woman open her eyes, if it helps a single mother defend her son, if it helps a single daughter get out of a lie, then everything will have been worth it. Every tear, every fear, every difficult night, everything. Because in the end, what matters is not how long we live. It is how we live. And I chose to live in truth. I chose to live with dignity. I chose to live with love. And that is my story. The story of a common woman who did something extraordinary. Not because she was special, but because she decided not to stay silent. Tomorrow I'm going to see Michael and Sarah. We are going to go to the park with little Michael. We are going to eat ice cream. We are going to laugh. We are going to live, because that is what families who truly love each other do. They live, they love, they forgive, they grow. And I am going to continue being the grandmother who tells stories, the grandmother who bakes cookies, the grandmother who hugs tight, but also the grandmother who teaches that the truth is always better than the lie, that dignity is always better than appearance, that true love is always better than false love. That is my legacy, and I am at peace with it. So if you are reading this, if you are listening to my story, I want you to know something. You can be brave too. You can tell the truth too. You can defend what is right too. It does not matter your age. It does not matter your situation. It does not matter your fear. Because bravery is not the absence of fear. It is acting despite the fear. And if a 55-year-old woman could stand up at a wedding and destroy an empire of lies, you can also stand up in your life and say, enough, this ends here. Because you deserve to live in truth. You deserve to live in peace. You deserve to live with dignity. We all deserve it. Thank you for listening to me until the end. Thank you for walking with me in this story. Thank you for allowing me into your heart. If this story touched your soul, if it made you think, if it gave you courage, then share it. Share it with your mother, with your daughter, with your sister, with your friend. Because stories have power. The power to transform, the power to heal, the power to inspire. And this story is for all the women who were ever afraid to speak, for all those who stayed silent when they wanted to scream, for all those who endured when they wanted to leave. This story is for you, and I tell you, you are no longer alone. Because now you know there was a woman who was also afraid, but who spoke anyway, and who changed everything. Subscribe and hit the bell to hear more stories of women who transform their pain into wisdom. Every day, a woman, a life lesson. Share this story with someone you love. Sometimes a story like this can change a whole day. God bless you, and until next time, with all my heart, Emily Carter.